The most agonizing moment of my life was not watching 5 years of my sweat and blood paraded on a massive presentation screen as proprietary tech. It was the fact that the man holding the clicker looked straight at me in the third row and felt nothing. No panic, no shame, not even a flinch. Blake stood under the bright conference lights in his tailored blazer, selling my distributed cloud architecture to hundreds of investors while I sat there in the dark feeling like an invisible ghost watching someone else live my life. My breath hitched when he clicked to slide 6, because right there, frozen on the giant screen behind him, was line 208 of the codebase. Years ago, in a moment of quiet pride late at night in an empty office, I had tucked a hidden signature into a log comment using my old initials. Blake had stolen my entire system, but he was so clueless about how the underlying engine worked that he had not even noticed my mark buried in the code. 5 years earlier, Blake and his partners recruited me straight out of a hackathon when I was 24 years old. They wrapped their pitch in buzzwords about changing the world and breaking barriers, promising a supportive culture where talent thrived. In reality, they wanted a cheap engineer to build their core product from scratch while they raised millions on my back. I poured my life into that back end, working 16-hour days on cold coffee until our server latency dropped by nearly 40%. They named the platform Apex and took all the credit while my stock options dissolved into useless paper. I stayed quiet at first, naively believing that true effort would eventually speak for itself in tech. But corporate culture does not reward silent builders. It rewards smooth talkers who know how to claim ownership of other people's work. The final straw came 6 months ago when I walked into Blake Glass' office to ask for a basic salary adjustment that matched my actual contribution. Instead of listening, Blake leaned back in his leather chair and let out a dismissive laugh that felt like a slap. He told me I was not the negotiating type and advised me to stay in my lane as a backroom coder. I did not scream or storm out, but a quiet, cold determination took over me right then. Blake assumed I was trapped, completely unaware that I held the one piece of leverage that could tear his entire company down to the ground. During my early months at the startup, I took a massive gamble and filed a patent for the underlying distributed computing algorithm under my maiden name. I paid a ruthless old intellectual property lawyer in monthly installments, living on instant noodles for half a year just to secure the rights. The founders were so distracted by flashy marketing and venture capital pitch meetings that they never bothered to audit the legal origin of the technology running their product. Instead of pulling the trigger immediately, I played the quiet employee and built my trap with surgical precision. I introduced a basic internal monitoring module under the guise of tracking system bottlenecks, which received overwhelming praise from the engineering team. Deep inside that update was a subtle heartbeat log that recorded every single time my proprietary algorithm executed across their network. I was collecting irrefutable electronic proof that Apex was running entirely on my patented foundation without authorization. With 57 pages of server logs, time-stamped benchmarks, and usage trails in hand, I reached out to Vance Miller, the billionaire founder of a competing enterprise cloud company. I had met Vance briefly at a tech event years ago where he gave me his card and told me to call if I ever needed real backing. When he reviewed my evidence, his legal team recognized the goldmine instantly and agreed to purchase the patent rights outright. Within days, Vance's legal team executed a covert takeover of the patent and issued an immediate cease and desist directly to Blake Board of Directors. The panic inside our office was absolute, with executives holding panicked emergency meetings behind closed doors while key legal advisors abruptly resigned. Blake attempted to calm the remaining staff during an all-hands meeting by claiming it was a minor contract misunderstanding, but the tech industry smelled blood in the water. When Blake finally summoned me into his office to offer me executive title and equity package in exchange for saving the platform, I looked him in the eye and refused. I reminded him that he had built an empire on stolen labor and walked out the door, leaving his desperate settlement paperwork sitting untouched on the desk. Major enterprise clients began tearing up their contracts with Apex, migrating their operations over to Vance Company as news of the massive legal dispute leaked to industry journalists. The board forced Blake out within days, and the company value cratered as investors scrambled to cover their exposure to the fallout. Before the dust could even settle, the firm's CEO tried to frame my internal monitoring tools as malicious corporate espionage to protect herself from shareholder lawsuits. But with the help of a brilliant cybersecurity analyst I knew from college, we uncovered system logs proving the executives had forged access records to frame me, forcing her immediate resignation. Rather than joining another massive tech firm or accepting lucrative consulting deals that came with heavy non-compete clauses, I turned down every corporate offer that landed in my inbox. I opened a blank terminal and spent weeks writing a brand new open-source framework called Mirror, designed to ensure full transparency and attribution for independent developers. The project trended to the top of major developer platforms within days, adopted by engineers who were tired of seeing their hard work siphoned away by executive suits. I still work late hours with a mug of cheap coffee on my desk, but every single line of code I write now belongs entirely to me. I do not need a flashy title or an executive corner office to validate the work I create with my own hands. Anyone who thinks they can build a lasting empire on stolen foundation will eventually learn that the real architect always holds the power to burn it down.